What's up, dude? I can tell you with 100% confidence that if a chef walks into a restaurant and sees this dish on the menu, they are straight up ordering it every single time. Creamy mashed potatoes, a perfectly cooked filet mignon, and a sauce so good it will just put a smile on your face. Hold on to your butts. Now let's go! Now, in order to make a truly incredible steak, we need some truly incredible mash to go with it. I was just in the mood for that today as the season changes, and I am actually using these red potatoes. I did a test recently and found these were the best ones above russets, above golds, or anything else. And all you gotta do is just start by peeling these down. Standard stuff, man. And then proceed to cut them into 6 even sized chunks. You could do them a little smaller or a little bigger. Just make sure they're all the same size so they cook evenly. Then just dunk them in some cold water and change that cold water out 3 times to remove that excess starch. Then on the stove they go with a pinch of salt on high heat. We're just gonna boil these up as quick as we can. These red potatoes were done in 15 short minutes. I just strained them off in the sink, let them steam out for about another 5 minutes. And while that was happening, I warmed up my dairy. I do prefer just to use milk and butter for mashed potato in most cases. And once that butter was melted and the milk was nice and hot, I simply just dumped out my dairy into my potatoes, mixing with a rubber spatula until I got it to the texture and consistency that I prefer. Some people like them drier, some people like them wetter. It really is just personal preference. Then just give one more final taste for seasoning. There was seasoning in the water, but you probably need to give them a little extra. And that's your mash done. Now let's move on to the beef we'll be using for this dish. This beef tenderloin technique I learned from this incredible Sardinian chef I used to work for. Shout out Marco Porcetu. He taught me a lot about how to cook food in the moment, and this was the way he did it at these private parties we used to do in Aspen. The only downside to this recipe is you really need a big log, that center cut piece of filet mignon to make it, which can be a bit on the pricey side, but given it's the holidays, this is the time to do it if you're gonna do it. Now here's a prime tenderloin I just got from Costco, and actually it's completely cleaned up. If you've ever worked in restaurants and had to work with whole beef tenderloins to remove all the sinew and the fat and the silver skin, it's quite a lot of work, but they've actually done an incredible job of doing that. So there's not really much I need to do in terms of trimming off any fat. So for this filet, I'll save that tail end for carpaccios, for tartare, or even just cooking up for dinner like little mini tips. Sometimes it's sold as tenderloin tips in butchers. And then you have this big muscle on top over here. I'll cut that off and use it for steaks. And then right there, we're gonna use that bang center cut piece to make this recipe. And so I'll cut that tail end right about here. And now I'm actually really excited to actually look at the filet because it's prime, so it should be marbled like this. In terms of filet, that is just perfect for me. That's just the right amount of fat. I mean, that looks incredible. And then to remove the rest, I'm gonna go right about there. And there's our beautiful center cut piece. That's the same kind of piece you wanna use if you're ever making beef Wellington or something like that. Just because it's the same thickness, it's gonna cook evenly, and it's also the same reason why we use it for this technique. And one good way to break down meat if you don't know what you're doing is simply just to follow the seams of the meat. I mean, you can see right here that meat's coming apart, and that right there looks like a nice little steak. So what I'll do is just pick this up and I'll just start following that seam down, right? Simple as that. It's really nothing to it. Take away that piece. Mini steaks, carpaccio, tartare, whatever. And then up here, I'll just continue to follow that seam down. I'll get one sort of thick steak right there. For me, the thicker, the better when it comes to filet mignon because you want to cook it on that rare to medium rare side. It's just at peak tenderness. And now up here, I'll get another one right there. Oh, my little tower of meat. Nice, big, thick filet mignon. There we go. And of course, all these scraps are absolutely good to eat, but these are only sort of like the 2 passable portions you'll get out of that end, unless it's a lot bigger. I might even be able to get one more from the thick side of the tail end because it's so malleable, right? You can kind of just push it down a little. But obviously your prime steaks, right, would be perfect from the center cut if you want to piece them up. But that's not the technique I'll be showing you today, but it's valid as well. So now with this lovely center cut piece, I'm gonna very lightly hit it with a little bit of olive oil. And this really just helps the seasoning stick. There's nothing to it. And then we're gonna hit it with a little bit of rosemary salt. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, it's just an incredible herb and garlic salt we make on the channel. I'll put the recipe for that down in the description along with a video. I wanna really get this thing everywhere. So going on the sides, and then we can just dip up like so. Check that. It's a pretty big piece of meat, so you can go a little heavier with the salt than you would if this was just like a single piece of filet, because we're not getting all that surface area on those inner sides from cutting it into steaks. That looks pretty good, my friends. And of course, some good old Sergeant Gilbert reporting for duty, my little fuzzy friend. How about a little mustache ride? Ew, stinks. And I'm going finely ground with it. And again, with this, you can really aim for the edge of that board because you'll just dip up the other side. I'm gonna roll it. Now, before moving on, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Made in Cookware. And this is a brand that I have genuinely loved and used for years, long before they were ever a sponsor of this channel. And their kitchenware is used by real chefs in top-rated restaurants and hotel groups across America, and even in multiple 3-star Michelin restaurants. And I love that they partner with multi-generational factories and artisans to bring you cookware that is an absolute pleasure to use. I honestly use these pans every single day in this kitchen for anything from steaks to veggies to fish, and it always gives me results. These award-winning pans are crafted in Italy with premium 5-ply stainless steel for superior heat retention and even cooking, which just means these pans heat up quickly and they hold that heat very well, which as a chef is what you want. They can also go straight from the stovetop to the oven up to 800 degrees. I also love that these pans have a rolled rim on the outside, so if I make a quick pan sauce after searing a steak, I can easily pour it off without making a mess. It's a pan that will truly last a lifetime and never let you down. Check out the stainless clad collection as well as all my other favorite cookware from Made In by clicking the link down in the description. Thank you, Made In, for sponsoring this video. Now back to the recipe. And so starting with a medium heat steel pan, I'm gonna toss in a whole bunch of unsalted butter. Heck, let's do a little more. I mean, it's the holidays, right? And now, keeping the heat on medium, you really need to let this butter cook for about 4 to 5 minutes until it's really nutty, golden brown, and most importantly, foamy. It should look like this, like a whitewashed ocean in the middle of a storm. You can't even see the ocean, right? You can't even see the clear butter underneath. It's all just white. That's when you know it's time to begin. Just carefully lower in your center cut fillet and away we go. The worst thing you could do with this technique is to burn the butter. So once it's all nice and foamy, you want to turn that heat to just a touch over low. Don't burn the butter, but also don't put the steak in too early either. And this isn't one of those techniques where you can walk away from your steak, because you need to roll this thing every 15 to 20 seconds until it's done. That's right. Another important thing to keep in mind here is to lower the temperature of the pan as that steak cooks, because when you start cooking the steak, it's still a little bit cold, and therefore it's taking energy away from the pan. And so as this steak cooks and gets hotter and hotter, so will the temperature of your butter, so just make sure you don't burn it. Otherwise, just treat this like a meditation and enjoy some of this B-roll while you listen to some classical music. So after exactly 30 minutes of rolling it in that foaming butter that just hit 110 Fahrenheit internal, because it's such a big piece of meat, and because I've learned over the years, filet mignon, I swear to God, I would not lie to you, is so much better when you cook it between rare and medium rare than medium rare. Edge on that rare side and just feel the difference in tenderness. This is a delicate cut of meat. This is a very expensive cut of meat. It's just best that way. Try it and see for yourself. And I know what you're thinking, 110 seems really low, but I actually think this will carry up to probably 122, 123, 124. And then if it needs a gentle little bit of heat to finish, I'll do that. But there's no way in hell I'm spending all that money on this and then overcooking it. Another thing I like to do with this technique is keep rolling it as it rests, because that side that's facing the bottom of the sheet pan actually traps heat and steam. And you can see here, as I turn it, that steam rising up. We need to keep releasing that heat. So roll while you rest. And I'll tell you what, I am just as excited for the sauce we're about to make as I am about trying that beef, because together I think we're gonna, like, my head might just like pop off and go to the moon. I've been dreaming about it for days now, which in my world is a long time, but we're gonna make a sauce that involves blackberries, red wine, and beef stock essentially, and we're gonna glaze that on this beef. It's gonna be absolutely, well, hopefully it's good. I don't know, let's see. And I'm starting with just some sliced shallots. Definitely use onion in its place if you don't have shallots. And by the way, I'm using the same pan I cooked the beef in. I just dumped off and strained the butter, which I'm gonna reuse, and then just gave it a little wipe out with a paper towel, and that's it, my friends. After about 90 seconds, I'm gonna add some fresh thyme leaves, and of course, some red wine going in. If you don't like cooking with wine, you can do about 1/4 of the amount in red wine vinegar instead, or simply just leave it out, because this sauce will still be really good without it. And now I'm going in with a whole bunch of fresh blackberries, and this is definitely gonna be more of a refined sauce. You'll see here in a minute, we're gonna be straining all of this off. But for now, let's let it cook down with the wine. After about 5 minutes of cooking, I'm gonna take my little masher here and smash these. This is actually really satisfying, just to kind of help them along. And after about 6 or 7 minutes of reducing, you can see what we've got here is this sort of thicker sort of syrup. It's almost coating a spoon. The wine is almost completely evaporated at this point. And now I'm going in with some super rich homemade beef stock, but use whatever you got. And now we're gonna begin another reduction process. At this point, it's reduced by 60%. I really wanna get it out of this pan into a smaller pot because this sauce will get really sticky and you'll lose a lot of it just sticking to the pan. So little pot on the stove, fine mesh strainer, and we'll just pour that all through. And I'm just gonna be careful here not to push this really through that strainer because I wanna end up with a really shiny, beautiful sauce. And if I push this too much, it's gonna get cloudy. So I'm just gonna leave it just like that. And then from here, we'll continue to reduce a little bit more. And I'm actually also gonna dump out about 25% into a little separate pot. You'll see why we're doing that in a sec. Just set it aside for now. Next item I'm going in with here is just a little bit of aged balsamic. I picked this up in Italy on a recent trip and it's really good. It's already a little bit thick as well. At this point too, I'm gonna start tasting for seasoning. Really depends how much salt is in your stock, but I'm just gonna add a touch. Doesn't need much. I'm also just gonna do a little pepper. Now here we are after another roughly 60-70% reduction. You can see that this sauce is coating a spoon. It's at this point, I'm gonna reduce the heat all the way down and start adding little cubes of cold unsalted butter while constantly whisking, because right now the sauce is a little bit too acidic, but on purpose. And as we add this fat to that acidity, the wine and everything, it's gonna begin to really balance it out and just give this nice glossy shine. And once that butter's all worked in, you can now see that it's now actually a little bit thicker. It really coats on your finger, on the spoon nicely. One more final taste for seasoning here. Dude, there are not many places in this world where you can go and even buy a sauce like that. Like, this is kind of something that like is reserved for just high-end restaurants or making it home. And now with the reserved 25% of that sauce, I'm gonna reduce this down without butter just to make the most insanely powerful, potent, beefy glaze that we're gonna brush on our finished beef. And this is gonna give our beef a ring of flavor around the outside as well as just a super shiny, professional looking piece of meat. Once it's all said and done, we can slice into this thing and plate up individual portions with the mash and with the sauce. I'll tell you what, Marcus, when you make a slice out of that thing and then you pour that sauce over the top with the mashed potatoes, I don't know, for me this was very exciting, very exciting. You would never ever get this portion in a restaurant. That thing is like 3 inches thick. Oh, dude.
Batman, help!
Lord, I want to go to a restaurant where a chef does this for me. I get a bite of steak, I pick it up, I get some potatoes, and the chef just goes like that.
Each bite.
Let's just put a little more sauce on there.
Yeah, you know how they shave truffles on stuff? And the price of your meal just goes up? They should have a chef hired by the minute to pour sauce on your thing.
I'd go broke, dude. Another? Hit me again? Yeah, Marcus and I have been pretty silent because we're hungry and this.
Forgot to say stuff.
Oh!
This is just like a once a year treat you should do. I would skip going to a steakhouse just to do this one time a year.
If you get 4 friends who chip in, you could probably get that piece right there and just do this for like 4 to 6 people. That's honestly the way. Dude, the sauce is so on point. The beef is incredibly tender. It even looked a little past rare to me, but the way it feels in your mouth is like, it's so tender. Although having said that, I pulled it at 110 degrees after cooking it on low heat the whole time, and it came up to about 130, 132. So, next time I do this, I would pull that steak even like 105, maybe even less. People don't get carryover cooking, man, and that's why every prime rib you Google on the internet is super overcooked, because the general information tells you to pull it at 128, 130, which is insane.
Make it.
Money, dude, make it. Thanks for watching today, my friend, and if you're a fan of written recipes, check out my Master in the Making ebook. I will have that linked down in the description. Tons of amazing recipes in there for the holidays. And if you want to keep learning today and you like new cool steak techniques, here are 2 more of my favorite ones from my channel. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being a bro. You're awesome. Until next time, you know I love you in the mouth.